So there is a point to this video. I can't really remember what it is, but I don't think we think long term enough. I think we're forced into these giant concepts that we're meant to understand, we're meant to believe, we're meant to think that other people are way smarter than us, and there are other people way smarter than us. But we're expected to try and grasp these giant concepts that they put labels on, like an existential threat and things like that. But the solutions aren't necessarily what they're presented to be. Okay, for example, we're told that in 100 years, sea levels are going to rise 1.5 meters, and it's a threat to humanity. Well, it's not like it's a flash flood. It's 100 years. People have 100 years to evaluate where they're living, what's going on, if things are changing as drastically as they're told, and then move accordingly. Move up the hill a bit. There's cities in Australia, like Lismore, it goes underwater all the time, and for years they've even spoken about moving the town, but they don't. So if 100 years isn't enough time for you to make a decision that's an existential threat, then nothing's really going to do anything. But then the government comes along and goes, we've got a solution. We can make you pay more money to mitigate the problem without any actual way to mitigate the problem, without anything actually mitigating anything, except that they can now afford to fly on private jets to meetings about how much better for the environment they now are. That's the way that it appears. There's always issues with proposed solutions. A engineer presented information about how giant arrays of solar panels actually cause microclimates, which little tornadoes and hail and rain and massive winds and stuff, because it changes the inversion layer. You can go from one side of a hill to another and the weather will be completely different because there's hills in the way. You can go from one side of a flat plain to the other, and the weather's different because of water being there, which means the temperatures react differently. So if you're putting these big heat soaks, these big things that are just changing the temperature of that local area, that the local area whose weather has developed over millions or billions of years because of just the nature of the terrain and the way that the weather's interacted with that terrain, then you drastically change that terrain and you think that there's going to be no environmental effects. That's literally spastic thinking. It's like not even thinking. Oh, yes, the solution to plant food in the atmosphere is to make other parts of the environment worse. This is what our current solutions are. Do we need to do something? Yes, but my argument would be plastics, microplastics, pharmaceuticals, things like that. I reckon they're a greater threat to the environment than plant food is. Just saying. Used to grow some plants. We used to put candles and even just pump straight CO2 into the grow room where the young plants were, because all the extra CO2, we're talking 1,000 parts per million. So, 2.5, 3 times what the planet has now, because they would get lusher, denser, greener, thicker with all the extra CO2 because it's plant food. Anyway, that's all my point. My point is we're making short-term fixes with short-term technology for what's essentially a long-term problem, and it's not actually going to get rid of the long-term problem, especially when you take into account that the third world isn't going to be able to afford to switch to wind turbines, solar, all the other stuff. It was fossil fuels, not fossil fuels. It was what we call fossil fuels that enabled the Western world to dig itself up out of poverty and to improve everything. And capitalism is what allows people to innovate. It incentivizes people to innovate and to make better products but what we've done is we've regulated a lot of that out of possibility. You can't make a new fuel because you can't put it in a car. Well, you can make a new fuel, but then you need to go and find a sponsor like BP or some other giant corporation that has the money to go through all the bullshit regulation that the government has decided is required, and but your fuel produces an element that we don't know in its exhaust. It might be, I don't know, something completely innocuous. Say it's literally transmogrifies the fuel in a thing, and one of the byproducts is helium. Well, we don't have any regulation for that, so you can't get your fuel passed. That's how stupid everything's become. No, solar panels are fine. No, wind turbines that take up heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of room and have been shown to cause heaps and heaps of problems to biological entities. No, that's fine, because it's not producing carbon. I mean, neglect the giant slab of concrete that holds these things up, and the amount of outgassing that happens when it's curing and when concrete's being made. Anyway, let's just forget half the stuff. I've never heard anyone, when talking about renewable energy, talk about how bad for the environment concrete is. Oh, but it's only the once. Yeah, but how long do wind turbines last? They're now saying everything lasts 25 years, but notice how they're pushing everything through really, 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 really rapidly, so that we're at a point that we're screwed if it turns out all of these things only last 10 years. So the things that have lasted 10 years now, they go, well, that's old technology. We've got new technology now. The new ones, they'll last 25 years. But everything's getting pushed so hard, and they're removing the things that require us to continue to move forward, to continue to progress, and potentially develop actual technology that will improve the situation. Anyway, again, I didn't start this as a rant. I just started speaking and it ranted. It's the language's fault. If you can't be good at it. Be adequately not unpleasant to one another, and that's all I've got to say about that.